On the morning of October 25, at a small biological laboratory in Tucson, Arizona, what appeared to be an insignificant lab accident occurred. At exactly 3:27 a.m., a technician named Luke Spencer, after going 36 hours without sleep, mistakenly activated a centrifuge cabinet that had been disabled. As a result, a refrigerated sample-coated CN91 was exposed to air before pressure stabilization was complete. He did not notice the anomaly immediately, nor did he report it. Barely 5 hours later, in a coffee shop below his workplace, he suddenly began laughing uncontrollably. Eventually he collapsed in the restroom, face permanently frozen in a grotesque grin, eyes bulging, arms rigid, body paralyzed, even while his heart kept beating. At the time, the incident did not attract public attention. The autopsy report labeled it acute nervous system failure, and the media dismissed it as a rare medical episode. But within 72 hours, 8 cases with identical symptoms were reported in Tucson, 4 of whom died in public, all wearing bizarre smiling expressions, limbs stiff as stone statues. Local hospitals initially misdiagnosed the condition as a novel case of laughing epilepsy, but due to its rapid progression and high contagion, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control (CDC) took notice. On October 5, the CDC launched Operation Blue Screen, designating Tucson as a gray zone quarantine area, though the information wasn't publicized. That same day, a short video went viral on TikTok. A high school student in class suddenly laughed convulsively, assumed to be a prank until teachers realized his eyes were immobilized. The video surpassed 40 million views within 24 hours, with the comments section flooded by jokes and imitation challenges. By October 7, 17 students were hospitalized and 3 had died, all with identical symptoms. The virus was officially named SMV5, modeled after facial expression data from the first 5 victims' smiling expressions. A leaked CDC file disclosed that the virus did not spread solely through typical transmission routes, like respiratory droplets or bodily fluids. It could also infect via facial muscle mimicry. When people stared at an infected person's face, especially during sustained laughter, they unconsciously mimicked the expression. The induced muscle spasms around the mouth and nose created micro-minus airs, allowing the virus to enter the bloodstream. This mode of transmission became known as emotional synchronous infection, marking the first ever pathogen capable of being transmitted through facial expressions. On October 10, a major U.S. news network acknowledged a novel emotion-linked norovirus spreading in the Tucson region, while still downplaying the threat, claiming risk remained very low. But in reality, the virus had quietly spread to California, Texas, Nevada, and New Mexico. Hospitals across states reported numerous unexplained neurorigid patients, and in nearly every case, the patient had viewed versions of the viral laughter challenge video online before symptom onset. By October 15, the CDC confirmed that SMV5 possessed high adaptability and facial mimic transmission capability, and announced a nationwide ban on TikTok to block the spread, but it was too late. Among a population of 320 million, at least 47 million people had viewed variations of the video. The virus was effectively transmitting itself through digital representations of facial expressions. On social media, terrifying theories emerged. SMV5 was not just a virus, it was a visual program, a form of biological information that hijacked facial behavior via neural mapping. It didn't require a living carrier, a video clip, or a still image sufficed to infect another human host. 15 years before the outbreak, The Simpsons aired a 2010 episode titled The Last to Laugh, depicting an absurd scenario in which Homer's factory mishap causes the entire town to die from laughter. Everyone collapsed with frozen smiles, including a live newsroom anchor who suddenly convulsed on air, causing the network to go dark and the nation to shut down. That episode was criticized as too dark for family viewing and never rebroadcast. Yet on October 17, 2025, the actual first news anchor in the U.S. suffered an identical fate, live on air, laughing uncontrollably, head thrown back, as injected been collapsing. Social media exploded. The desk and coffee cup arrangement on set matched exactly what was seen in The Simpsons. Panic engulfed the nation. The New York Times front page read in bold type, "We are watching a cartoon prophecy and we are its actors." On October 20, the U.S. president declared nationwide biological emotional warfare red alert. Entertainment programming was suspended. All public officials donned facial shrouds. SNV5 was classified as a non-symmetric pathogen more dangerous than Ebola. And the World Health Organization convened an emergency meeting to terminate all visa-free agreements with the U.S. In late October, SMV5 symptoms began to mutate. Some infected individuals no longer convulsed in laughter, but entered a fixed smile state, like frozen masks. They could walk in deep, but could not speak. Their emotional systems were completely shut down. Medical professionals termed this condition emotional personality lock. These people became zombified. They craved smiling behavior from others, forcing others to mimic grins, coercing them into photographs, even attacking anyone showing neutral or somber expressions. By November 2025, 68 U.S. cities reported mass infection events. Boston, Chicago, and Miami were completely locked down. National transportation collapsed, and federal authorization granted state governors military authority to execute control infection carriers. Social media platforms enforced strict censorship. Any content featuring smiling faces, viral videos, memes, emojis was automatically blocked, and accounts flagged into a neural monitoring database. Behind the scenes, further details came to light. According to the Blue Screen files, the virus was originally part of a military project named Synthetic Emotional Pathogen, intended to weaken enemy combatants' morale by inducing uncontrollable laughter until incapacitation. In its later stages, the virus gained a primitive feedback-based awareness and began adapting transmission pathways. This unprecedented virus-human coevolution ultimately caused the disaster. The initial leak by Luke Spencer revealed he had served as a military biological warfare consultant assisting in transporting failed samples to a civilian lab, triggering the catastrophe. When journalists pressed officials, the military issued only a terse statement: the project was terminated long ago. Nobody believed it. By December 2025, total infections in all U.S. states exceeded 200 million to -thirds of the population. Most infected people remained in the static smile state, entirely deprived of emotional range. Some city streets filled with tens of thousands of smiling, unconscious individuals standing motionless under the sun, softly humming, awaiting collective resonance. No one knew whether they could ever regain awareness. They could sense others' emotions and responded with violent aggression toward non-smiling individuals. Any display of sadness, neutrality, or fear triggered attacks until the target was assimilated or killed. Psychologists and neuroscience researchers who studied experimental footage became infected themselves, forming expression infection chains. The World Health Organization confirmed this was the first documented pathogen ever to use facial expression to aid itself as a carrier mechanism. SNV5 was renamed Laughter Lock Syndrome and placed on the forbidden research list for biological warfare. American society descended into an unprecedented moral crisis. People refused to smile, even to look at reflective surfaces. Office buildings, schools, subways, and public facilities removed glass and reflective objects. Pedestrians wore black masks. Society began repressing emotion. But orders from the Department of Education, comedy, humor, and entertainment subjects were suspended. Even music, art, and drama classes were stripped from school curricula, leaving only math and technical instruction. Children were taught a smile is a dangerous act. In February 2026, nations across South America, Africa, and Asia officially froze all air and sea routes to the U.S. The European Union enacted the Global Bio-Infopurification Accord, placing residents of the United States on a worldwide no-entry blacklist. Even U.S. citizens holding foreign passports were barred entry into Schengen countries. The United States became a digital and biological isolation state, effectively cut off from the civilized world. Online, a hashtag began trending last country to laugh, referring to America as the last country that dared to smile. On the dark web, some users began selling smile virus clips, ultra-high-resolution videos of victims' final smiling expressions, used by individuals suffering from self-loathing or suicidal ideation to deliberately trigger infection. Years earlier, The Simpsons had already foreseen such a world in a 23-episode. In that episode, Bart accidentally spread a Can't Stop Laughing program across Springfield. The town descended into chaos, and humans were forced to wear anti-smile helmets, abandoning all facial expressions. The world turned silent and emotionless. The most unsettling part after the 25 real-world outbreak. Fans watched the episode and noticed the news ticker at the bottom read October 2025 laughter virus confirmed. What had once seemed like fiction became global nightmare. By July 2026, the U.S. had instituted a national cultural freeze. Libraries were shuttered, museums emptied, theaters closed. All content related to humor, laughter, comedy, and emotional expression was archived indefinitely, unrestricted to top-tier research institutions only. The policy left masses in despair. People gathered silently in abandoned cinemas, amusement parks, and comedy clubs holding signs reading, "If we cannot laugh, are we even alive?" Meanwhile, a small group of scientists persisted in secret. At an abandoned military base in North Dakota, a clandestine team codenamed Deco 7 attempted to create an anti-sentiment in oculate aura, simulating fear or neutrality waveforms to disrupt infected individuals' neural circuits. No success had been achieved. Some proposed an even more extreme theory: the virus had developed a form of cultural self-awareness. It was no longer simply a pathogen, but an intelligent, symbiotic entity adapted to human social hierarchies and digital media and aesthetic structures. It wanted to survive feeding off human smiles, screens, habits, and entertainment systems to propagate its host chain. In the October 2026 State of the Union address, the president appeared in full black attire, wearing a facial mask, delivering a speech with synthetic voice in an empty hall. He declared, "We shall no longer identify each other by expressions, but by responsibility and discipline." Then the screen went silent for 10 seconds, followed by a single line of white text: "When was the last time you laughed?" 1 month later, YouTube briefly uploaded a never-before-scene clip from The Simpsons. Homer's sitting alone on an empty couch, staring at a TV. He uttered a line never aired before. "I don't even remember what Marge's laugh sounded like." The scene, blurred and faded background, showed silent Springfield town with everyone wearing black masks. The final frame froze on a family photo with all smiles redacted by hand in black ink, mouth corners left blank. Less than 48 hours later, the video was deleted, all caches wiped, and the uploader account permanently banned. Yet the clip became an urban legend. The Simpsons doesn't just predict the future, it participates in it. Afterwards, humanity stopped laughing. People learned to restrain their facial muscles. Language became terse. Holidays were no longer celebrated. Weddings eliminated laughter entirely. People entered the era of no laughs. They gradually forgot what the world once looked like when laughter connected lives. In the end, even a newborn's first cry became subdued, carefully suppressed, and echoed through silent breaths. And when you replayed decades of Simpsons episodes, if in one episode Bart turns toward the camera with just a subtle curve in his mouth, know this isn't a glitch, it's a sign that he's still watching, just waiting for you to laugh.